Hello, every pony. I've got my glass of wine here. I'm ready to go. Okay. Well, I knew this day would come sooner or later. Well, a day like this. I suppose it could have been worse, but the day when someone requested a sad fic. And the sad fic request from JManMac15 is for Bubbles. Now, for those of you that aren't familiar, Bubbles is essentially a derpy origin story ish. Derpy's childhood, anyway. It's not the saddest thing that someone could have asked for, but it rates pretty high up there in my opinion. So for you guys, the same picture I saw when I first found and read this fiction a while back. Now, I actually had a hard time finding this on FemFiction, which is where I usually go, as I'm sure you guys have noticed. But a quick Google search was able to pull up the feature for it on Equestria Daily, which probably the link I'll include, because in addition to this picture and several others, and the link to the story, there's also a link to an alternate ending. So we might check that out later on. I'm not sure who the author is, to be honest. It's listed as anonymous. So anyway, alright, I'm stalling. I apologize. It's shameless, I know. Okay. Also, one quick thing before we start. There's a YouTube channel out there called Bald Dumbo Rat, and I'll add it to my featured channels. It's a nice young lady who has a remarkable derpy voice. She has quite a few humorous videos with it. But one of the many things she did is she read this fiction. Now, I didn't actually finish listening to her reading because I knew where it was going and I couldn't. So, anyway, without me stalling anymore, I'm just going to get this over with. Big drink of wine. Okay, so without further ado, Bubbles. One of Derpy's favorite things to do is help Mommy. Mommy is always running around the house and doing all kinds of things, and the house is really big, and there's all kinds of stuff inside, so Derpy gets to help a lot. Right now, Derpy wants to help make muffins because they're her favorite. She even knows where the flour is. It's in one of the big cabinets in the kitchen. When she tries to get it out of the cabinet, it gets all over her because the bag is really big and she can't always move so good. And Mommy says, "Look at the mess you made, go play somewhere else." But Derpy doesn't cry or anything, even though Mommy was loud, since Mommy won't let her help in the kitchen. Derpy wants to go play with Miss Sweetie. That's her favorite doll, Miss Sweetie. She's her favorite one because she's yellow and Derpy likes yellow most of all. Derpy's mane is yellow and so is Mommy. Mommy is yellow all over. Derpy knows all the colors. She knows red and blue and green and purple and especially yellow because it's her favorite. Derpy hopes that Mommy is going to make muffins today. She likes muffins a whole lot, but one time she ate too many and she felt sickish. But it's okay because they're still her favorite. Purple muffins are the best, and Derpy likes it when she gets to eat the purple muffins. Derpy has to stay inside most days. Mommy and Daddy say that little ponies should stay inside where they can't get lost. But sometimes they'll take her places too. Like one time they went to a place where there were lots of ponies and some of the ponies had hats on and some were running around with cows and things. But Derpy got scared at all the ponies and started crying, so they had to leave, but she really didn't want to go. One time they took Derpy to school too. School was a different big house with lots of other little ponies like her, not big ones like Mommy and Daddy. There was a pony there who was big and looked like Daddy, but he wasn't Daddy, but Derpy still wasn't scared either. Everyone was talking all over, and Derpy got real excited and wanted to talk too, but Derpy can't talk so good, but it's okay because everyone was happy. Then later, every pony got quiet, and the big pony was saying things, and Derpy wanted to say stuff too, but he said no talking in class, so Derpy tried not to say things, but it was a long, long time, and sometimes she forgot, and then she had an accident on herself, and that made her cry, and everyone got loud again. Derpy didn't really like school, but it's okay because she gets to stay inside now. Daddy isn't home most of the time, but she likes when Daddy comes home because Daddy isn't loud like Mommy. Daddy teaches Derpy things too, like colors. Daddy says Derpy is a Pegasus pony because she has wings. Someday, Daddy always says he'll teach Derpy how to fly. Daddy said that most Pegasus ponies live in the sky, but Derpy doesn't live in the sky because she can't fly. Derpy can't fly because she can't always move so good, and sometimes she can't see so good either. But someday maybe Derpy will fly like Mommy and Daddy can, and everyone can go live up in the sky with the other Pegasus ponies. He says up in the sky is where they make rainbows, and Derpy wants to see all the rainbows. She'll tell Daddy all the colors she's learned if she can talk good by then. Daddy says Derpy is a Pegasus pony, but Mommy says Derpy is a retard. But Daddy never told Derpy what that is. Derpy really, really likes when Daddy comes home because Daddy is nice and plays with Derpy and talks to Derpy, but Mommy always says, Derpy, go play somewhere else. Mommy is always doing things like cleaning and things, and even though Derpy tries to help, she makes a mess sometimes because she can't move so good. And Mommy cries sometimes too, and then Mommy has to take medicine to make her stop crying. Derpy cries sometimes, but she doesn't need medicine. But today Mommy is happy, and Derpy is happy, and Miss Sweetie is happy. And when Derpy smells muffin smell, Derpy gets really happy. Derpy runs real fast to the kitchen. She brings Miss Sweetie too because Miss Sweetie likes muffins, but not as much as Derpy does. And she finds muffins there. Mommy says, sit down over there, Derpy, and she does. Derpy puts Miss Sweetie down on the table. She can't eat muffins while she's holding Miss Sweetie, and also Miss Sweetie tastes a little like yuck anyway. But Mommy grabs Miss Sweetie and throws her into the other room. Derpy wants to go get Miss Sweetie, but Mommy pulls Derpy back, and it kind of hurts, and Mommy says, no, sit down. Derpy gets mad and swings her hoofs at Mommy, but Mommy hits Derpy in the face, and Derpy starts to cry. But then Mommy puts lots of muffins down on the table and says, be quiet, Derpy, look, muffins. And Mommy is smiling so Derpy doesn't cry, and she gets muffins, so it's okay. Mommy pushes all the muffins in front of Derpy and says, have as many as you like, and Derpy gets one really fast. They aren't the purple ones, but she still likes them anyway. She eats a whole muffin all the way, and then she gets another one, but she can't finish that one all the way because she already feels a little sickish, and the muffins don't taste as good as the purple ones. Mommy says, what's wrong? You're not done already, are you? Can't you finish at least one more? And she pushes more muffins in front of Derpy, but Derpy's already sickish, so she wants to go play with Miss Sweetie now. Derpy tries to play with Miss Sweetie, but she feels real sickish now, so she just takes Miss Sweetie over by the window and watches the sky. Daddy says the sky color is blue and she can see all the clouds and stuff, and even some Pegasus ponies, but not any rainbows. Daddy comes home when the sky is all orange, but Derpy can't see him because she's laying down by the window because she feels really, really sickish and her belly hurts really bad. She can't even squeeze Miss Sweetie because her belly hurts, and Daddy comes over and nuzzles her and says, Sweetie, are you okay? But Derpy doesn't say anything, and she can't cry either, even though it hurts so bad. Then Daddy gets loud and Mommy gets loud, but Derpy keeps looking out the window. But then Daddy picks up Derpy and goes outside really fast. It hurts so much that she does cry now, and she wants Miss Sweetie, but she's still inside the house. Daddy puts Derpy in her cart and ties her in so she doesn't climb out, but she doesn't want to climb out anyway. Daddy takes her to a place that she's never been to before, and lots of big ponies in white hats and stuff are around and carrying her all over, and it really hurts her belly, but Daddy's still there too, even though she can't see good right now. They put Derpy on a bed, and it's really cold, and she's crying, and one of the big ponies is making her eat something, and Daddy says, Sweetie, you're gonna be okay, alright? Just take the medicine. It'll be okay, I promise. And she eats the medicine because Daddy says to. Mommy takes medicine, and it makes Mommy stop crying, so maybe this medicine will make Derpy stop crying, but it's not working now, though. Derpy gets really tired and scared and hurting, and all kinds of stuff happens, and she can't remember too good or see too good either, but she remembers Daddy is there, and then she wakes up and it doesn't hurt so much anymore. Daddy is by the bed and it's all bright and white inside, and she can see Daddy because her eyes aren't bad right now, and he says, "How do you feel, sweetie?" Daddy is gray colored, and Derpy says, "Sweetie," because that's one of the words she can say good. Daddy nuzzles Derpy in the neck and says, "I love you so much." And Derpy is really, really sleepy, and Daddy makes her neck wet because he is crying all over. Derpy got to stay in that new place for lots of days, and so did Daddy, but not Mommy. There were lots of big ponies and even some little ponies, and they were all nice to Derpy, and she didn't break anything or make a mess the whole time while she was there, so it was really fun. But Daddy said it's time to go home, so they did. When Mommy saw Derpy, she squeezed Derpy and said lots of things. Then everyone, Mommy and Daddy and Derpy, spent all day together. They played together all day, and everyone was really happy and sang lots of stuff, and they even had muffins again. They were purple this time, and Derpy really likes the purple ones. And when it was time for bed, Mommy and Daddy stayed with Derpy the whole night. It was Derpy's most favorite day. Derpy gets up really early in the morning with Mommy and Daddy because it's time for Daddy to go to work. Everyone has food all at the same time today, and Derpy isn't sleepy or anything. And when Daddy has to go, he kisses Mommy, and then he nuzzles Derpy and kisses her on top of her head and says, "Be good, sweetie, Daddy loves you." And then he has to go even though she really doesn't want him to. After Daddy leaves, Derpy gets really sleepy, and she has to sleep on the floor where it's warm because the sun is in the window. Next time, Derpy wakes up because Mommy wakes her up and says, "Get up, Derpy, hurry up, we're leaving." And Derpy doesn't really know what to do, but Mommy pulls her up, and Derpy grabs Miss Sweetie before they go this time. Mommy keeps pushing Derpy to move faster, but Derpy can't see good right now, and she almost falls over sometimes. Then she puts Miss Sweetie inside her cart and gets in, and then Mommy starts pulling the cart, even though Derpy didn't get tied in yet. But it's okay because Derpy has Miss Sweetie, and she's really soft, and Derpy is still sleepy, so she goes to sleep on Miss Sweetie for a little while. When she wakes up the next time even, it's really cold and windy because they're up high, and Derpy doesn't like going up high. Derpy gets scared when she looks outside the cart because they're high, and also Derpy doesn't like where they are anyway. Daddy usually doesn't go high up when he takes Derpy somewhere. They're up high for a long, long time, and Derpy starts to get really hungry, but she's scared too, so she just lays down in the cart and squeezes Miss Sweetie, and she likes that because Miss Sweetie is warm. There's no clouds where they are, and there's no Pegasus ponies or rainbows either. Then she has an idea and thinks maybe Mommy is taking her back to that nice place that was fun, and maybe Daddy will be there too. After an even long time, it gets warm again, and Mommy comes over and says, "Get up," and pulls Derpy out of the cart by her tail, and that hurts a little bit, but not too much. Derpy looks around, but it isn't the fun place, but there are lots of trees all over and some grass and even some houses far away too. She looks at Mommy, and Mommy says, "Come here," and goes to under a really big tree and tells Derpy to sit down under the tree, and then takes a bowl out of one of her bags. Derpy is happy because she's really hungry, and then Mommy takes a bottle out and puts some stuff in the bowl, but when Derpy tries to drink the stuff up, Mommy says no. So Derpy doesn't know what to do, and Mommy takes a new thing out of her bag that's pink colored and says, "Watch this, Mommy's going to make you some bubbles." And she takes the funny looking new thing and puts it in the stuff in the bowl and then takes it out and waves it around, and then there's bubbles. They float around all over, and Mommy starts laughing, and Derpy starts laughing, and she's really happy, and then Mommy says, "Now you try," and puts the funny thing back in the bowl. Derpy reaches down and holds the funny thing with her teeth. It's because she can't always use her hoofs so good, and then picks it up and shakes her head all over, and then there's more bubbles. Derpy laughs so much and she drops the funny thing, but Mommy just says, "Here, make some more," and puts the thing back in the bowl. Then Derpy grabs the thing again and makes more bubbles until the bubbles stop. And Derpy doesn't know what to do, but then she remembers and puts the thing back in the bowl, and then takes it out and she can make more bubbles. Derpy makes bubbles until they're all over. Sometimes there's lots, and sometimes there's only not lots. Sometimes Derpy just likes to watch the bubbles instead of making more. They move really slow sometimes, and sometimes they don't move at all. But best of all is how the bubbles all have rainbows in them. There's more colors than she's ever seen, and sometimes when she can't see good, there's even more bubbles with even more rainbows. Derpy is still hungry kinda, and she can't see Mommy or her cart or Miss Sweetie anymore, but that's okay because there's bubbles, and Derpy likes bubbles most of all. The sky is orange too, so that means Daddy will be home soon, and he can make bubbles with Derpy, and they can all eat food together. Maybe Mommy and Daddy will stay with Derpy all night like last time. Someday Daddy says he'll teach Derpy how to fly, and she'll float around like the bubbles. And then her and Mommy and Daddy will be able to live up in the sky, and Mommy won't cry anymore, and there'll be rainbows, and she'll tell Daddy all the colors. The end. Okay, well, I didn't cry, which is an improvement. Now, before we go, I'm going to take a look at this alternate ending linked on Equestria Daily. Okay. This is the, I guess you could say, extended ending by Botar. To kind of sum up what just happened, in case some of you didn't quite follow along, or if it was hard to understand me, I tried to read it kind of quickly and all run-on sentencey because that's how it's written, and I feel like that's how it's intended to be read. But yeah, in a nutshell, Derpy's mom has some issues, and tried to poison Derpy with some muffins, and was okay the next day, I guess after getting some kind of help. And then as soon as Derpy's dad leaves for work, she takes her in the middle of nowhere and leaves her there. And Derpy doesn't realize that. So, we'll make sure we all followed along. I'm not going to cry. Alright. And this, like I said, this is the extended ending, Rainbows and Cloud Bubbles by Botar. Derpy was all alone. Some time had passed since Mommy had left Derpy under the tree on top of the mountain, and Derpy was getting very hungry. Derpy decided that Mommy must be coming back soon, so she would make a few more bubbles while she waited. As she made more bubbles, one of them seemed to be bigger than the others, and she stopped and watched it intently as it floated slowly in front of her. All the rainbow colors swirling around in the bubble were enticing to Derpy, and she felt very happy. As she watched the colors play out in their endless dance, she noticed another pony in the bubble as well. She moved her head from side to side, and as the image in the bubble moved as well, she then realized that this was not another pony, it was just a reflection of herself. She really was alone after all, and this made Derpy very sad. As the bubble floated there, Derpy kept staring at it until she noticed something different. Her face in the bubble seemed to be getting bigger. Not only that, but it was changing color and shape as well. Suddenly the bubble burst, and floating there in front of Derpy was another Pegasus pony. She was small like Derpy, and she was orangish-yellow with a light blue mane. "Hi," she said. "My name is Raindrops. What's your name?" Derpy wanted to say many things, but most of all she wanted to ask if this pony had come out of the bubble. But she was so surprised by the whole ordeal, all she could say was, "Bah." "Bah," said Raindrops. Then she noticed Derpy's cutie mark. "Oh, you have a cutie mark. Did you just get it? I got mine the other day. Yours looks like some bubbles. So, I'll call you Bubbles." Derpy then glanced at her flank and was surprised to see that Raindrops was right. She did now have a cutie mark. At first she wanted to tell this pony that Bubbles was not her name, but the more she thought about it, the more she liked it, so she decided to keep quiet. Raindrops said, "I was out for an evening flight when I saw some bubbles floating over the trees here, so I decided to check it out. Imagine my surprise to see another filly sitting all alone way up here on this mountain. I couldn't pass up the opportunity to say hello, now could I?" Raindrops then landed and took a good look around. "Speaking of which, why are you alone? Did you get separated from your family?" Derpy nodded. "Well, it's going to be dark soon, so I should be heading home. Do you want to come with me? My house is just down the mountain and around that ridge." Derpy was unsure what to do. She wanted to wait for Mommy, but it was getting quite cold and she was still very hungry. "My mom should have dinner ready by the time we get back to my house," said Raindrops. That settled it. Derpy got to her feet and started shakily after Raindrops, bubble maker in her mouth. But Raindrops was flying way too fast and going places that Derpy couldn't follow. Then Raindrops stopped and looked back at Derpy. "What's the matter?" "Oh, you can't fly." "Well, that's okay. It's a nice night for a walk. I'll carry that bowl of bubble juice for you as well." And so they walked for some time until they reached a house in an empty spot between all the trees. It was made of what looked like trees all stacked on top of each other. "Here we are. It's not much, but it's home. Have you ever been to a log cabin in the woods before?" asked Raindrops. Derpy shook her head. They walked into the front door and Raindrops opened it. Then she yelled, "Mom, I'm home!" And then around the corner came a Pegasus pony who looked a little like Raindrops, but bigger and darker colored. "Welcome home, honey. Oh, who's your friend?" "This is Bubbles," said Raindrops. "I found her all alone on the mountain. I think she got separated from her family. Can she stay the night with us? She doesn't talk much, but she's a great listener." "Oh, you poor thing," said Raindrop's mom. "Of course she can stay here tonight. Her parents must be worried sick. Come on into the kitchen and we'll have dinner together." Derpy was very happy that night. She got to eat lots and lots of good food, and afterwards they had slices of purple cake that Raindrops called blueberry pie. And it wasn't as good as the purple muffins that Derpy loved so much, but it was still very good. After dinner they took a bath, and Derpy was very excited because the water was full of little white bubbles. Never had a bubble bath before? Said Raindrops. Well, you're in for a treat. They're not as colorful as the ones you were making earlier, but they feel really good. And so Derpy got all covered with the white bubbles and had a great time playing with them in the tub. Afterwards, Derpy got to go into Raindrop's room, but then she started thinking about Mommy and Daddy and Miss Sweetie as well, and she got really sad and started crying. But then Raindrop's mom showed up and held her in her arms and said, "Shh, it will be all right." And then she prepared a bed for Derpy next to Raindrop's bed. And then Raindrop's mom tucked them into bed and read them both a bedtime story before kissing them both goodnight and turned out the lights. Derpy dreamed about floating in a sea of rainbow-colored bubbles, and Mommy and Daddy and Raindrops and her mom were all there, dancing around as the bubbles exploded into every color of the rainbow. In the morning, they awoke to the sound of birds singing in the trees outside. They were in the middle of having a nice breakfast when there was a knock on the front door. Raindrop's mom opened it and Daddy was there. He looked very tired and upset. He said, "Hello, ma'am. Sorry to bother you, but have you seen a small gray filly with a yellow mane and crossed eyes?" He then glanced at the kitchen table and saw Derpy. Before anyone could say anything, Derpy rushed over to him, nearly falling over herself in excitement. "Derpy! Oh, thanks, Celestia, you're all right. I was so worried. I've been looking everywhere for you all night." He then started crying, and Derpy was crying too, but it was the good kind of crying. "Look who I brought with me," he said, and then he handed Miss Sweetie to Derpy. Everything that happened after that was a blur to Derpy, but there was lots of talking and laughing, and every pony was having such a good time. Much time passed, and eventually Raindrops and Derpy went outside to play while the grown-ups talked. "So your name isn't Bubbles after all," she thought, said Raindrops. "That's okay, though. Derpy is a funny name. But then you're a funny pony." Derpy looked curiously at Raindrops and pointed at her cutie mark. "Why am I called Raindrops?" said Raindrops. "Because I can do this." She then flew up into the sky and pulled a small dark cloud all the way over to a flower bed close to where Derpy was standing. It then started raining on the flowers, and Derpy was very impressed. A little while later, Derpy had an idea. She ran inside and grabbed the bowl of bubble juice that Raindrops had carried home the night before, and brought it outside to Raindrops. Then Derpy said, "Bubble, cloud," and ran back and forth excitedly. Raindrops got the message. "Oh, you want me to pour the bubble juice into the rain cloud and shake it back and forth? Okay, let's give it a try." Raindrops did as she said, and as she shook the cloud, the raindrops that had fallen before were now replaced with hundreds of tiny bubbles. Derpy and Raindrops spent the rest of the day experimenting with different ways to make cloud bubbles, and then Derpy and Raindrops' mom were outside watching them. And then Daddy and Raindrops' mom were outside watching them, and they were laughing and holding each other's hooves. Derpy had never been so happy in her life. That night, as they were getting ready for bed in Raindrops' house, Derpy wanted to know where Mommy was. "Where's Mommy?" she asked. Then Daddy got a very sad look in his face and said, "I'm so sorry, sweetie, but Mommy can't be with us anymore. It's just not safe." And then Derpy starts crying, but Daddy says, "I know it's hard, but sometimes we have to make tough choices in life. Mommy's made her choice, and so have I. But one thing that will never change is that we both always love you, forever and ever." This made Derpy feel a little better, but she was still sad. As the days went by, Derpy and Raindrops became best friends, and Daddy and Raindrops' mom started getting very friendly towards each other. Derpy didn't understand everything that was happening, but she overheard them talking about things like, "Yes, I used to be a male pony, but I quit my job after Derpy disappeared that fateful day. I realized that she is the most important thing in my life, and I needed more time to be there for her. I'm just so grateful that you and your daughter were there for her in her time of need." To which Raindrops' mom replied, "I completely understand where you're coming from. I used to be a weather pony, but working all day long and every day moving the clouds around, while my little Raindrops was all alone with her abusive father was just not fair. And then after my husband left me, I realized that something had to change. So I quit my job and moved into this cabin in the woods, far away from the hustle and bustle of Cloudsdale. I've been thinking, there's a nice little town not too far away called Ponyville. What do you think about moving there? I hear there's some great job opportunities there, and we wouldn't have to work all the time. We could take turns taking care of the fillies, and there are many other ponies there for them to make friends with, including some just like Derpy." "Yes, I think that would be a great idea." Some days later, Derpy and Raindrops and Daddy and Raindrops' mom, who Derpy had started to think of as Mommy, moved into a new place. It was a little scary at first, but there were many other ponies around, and Derpy had started to make friends with some of them. As time passed, Derpy got more and more confident with herself, and at last a day came where Daddy taught her how to fly. As she soared through the clouds, she remembered that day so long ago on the mountain when she and Raindrops had first met. Then a thought came to her. She told Raindrops to gather some rain clouds, and then Derpy rushed back home and got a big bottle of bubble juice. When she got back, she dumped the bubble juice all over the clouds, and then she and Raindrops shook them quickly, filling the sky with an enormous number of rainbow-colored bubbles. And they were made even more beautiful by all the real rainbows in the background. And then Derpy remembered the promise she had made to herself on that day, and she told Daddy the names of all the colors she had learned, and he gazed on her with tears in his eyes. Aww. Okay, that's way better. Like, that should be the mandatory ending to that story. Like, like I super cried bunches when I read Bubbles the first time. Like, that was so sad. Why can't anyone give Derpy, like, a happy origin story? Is that so much to ask? Like, really, you guys are killing me here. Oh my god. Okay. Anyway, alright, we did it. We got through it. I got through a sad fic. I survived. I didn't cry. To the point where you guys could hear me. So that's what matters. So, yes, I think that's probably good for tonight. It's late. I'm tired. I've had a little bit of wine. I should probably call it a night. I suppose tomorrow we will start our new major story project, because I really don't... There's really not much point in messing with the software anymore, because it's really not going to work. And, I really don't have any excuse to not start on it, except for my hesitation, because I'm going to suck at trying to do that many different voices. But I want to do a good job, because it's a really good story. So, we'll probably get started on that tomorrow. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoyed. I don't think I've said it in a while, so thank you, all of you, for watching and listening and commenting and subscribing and everything, because it means a lot that you guys enjoy what I'm doing, and you guys keep offering suggestions for things you'd like to hear. I thoroughly enjoy doing this, and I want to keep you guys entertained, so keep the suggestions coming, and we'll get started on the new story probably tomorrow, and hopefully you guys like it, and hopefully I can do a decent job for you. So until next time.